Hey, it's Shabes, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week, from the 11th of January to the 19th of January. And first for the video that I thought was not good, but I don't feel the same maliciousness that I think they're kind of feeling over there at the Digi After Dark channel, or what it's currently called as the Digi Collective. They put out a video called Mint Thinks the Eva is Alive, Animates on Evangelion episode 1 through 6. So, this is an anime-related video on Digi After Dark. It's been kind of a while since that. And certainly the first in this new era in terms of what the Digi Collective is being used for. That particular channel is for Void Gazers and such. And I've enjoyed the Void Gazers series so far. I do think everyone there has a good presence on screen, and I think they bounce off each other really interestingly, and they put themselves in really challenging, interesting situations, like the most recent episode where they were like on the street and giving out like chips to people, and then like asking if people liked anime and stuff like that. Like that's so interesting and challenging. And I like that kind of content, but I do think this was a bit of a miss here, especially since a lot of people, I think they got a little more of a flood back or bring a pull from Digi's audience because you're talking about Evangelion, and Ava's a big popular show with Digi and her audience and everything like that. So this is this certainly caught my attention, but a lot of people did not really know that Mint and Riley and all these guys had moved into Digi's house. Had been starting to do this sort of content, and they were very confused and very taken back. I don't think Riley and Mint, it's just Riley and Mint on this video. I don't think they put themselves in the best light here. They're certainly still to themselves. They're still being fairly authentic, but in this particular video, it didn't seem like Riley was all that into it. He didn't seem all that with it, maybe. And it doesn't help that you start the video showing that like you're taking a bunch of drugs, and I don't even know what kind of drugs they are because you're censoring them. It's like, oh, this is on OnlyFans and stuff, and I guess because can't show this like actively doing drugs on YouTube, which is fair. So like I don't even know what drugs you're doing. I'm not much of a drug person either, and there's no judgment. You can be high and stuff, I guess, when making videos, and I'm sure Digi was plenty on drugs in a lot of her content, and that's fine. But I think it, unfortunately, had the side effect of feeling very spaced out, not dismissive, but like, it didn't feel like you were very invested in the idea of what you were doing here, which is just watching Evangelion for the first time, the first 6 episodes, and kind of recollecting what you had seen. And, you didn't really go episode by episode. You just watched the first 6 and then had the camera on. Which, like, the shot that you were using is a little weird because it's like Riley sitting in a chair and then Mint on the ground, like sitting kind of next to him, but on the ground. And it's like, what is this? Like if you, if you're gonna compare it to like what Digi would do with like May, they'd be on the couch together. They'd be like kind of equal on the same thing, and. It was a weird dynamic. I'm not like looking for it to be Digi. I'm not trying to be like, where's Digi and May, which is what a lot of these comments were doing, and this video was disliked pretty badly. And people were like, I don't even know what she's trying to do here. And I do think it was quite kind of an unpleasant surprise to discover that Digi doesn't even show up in this video at all. And again, not like she has to. Because I get that it's a collective type of thing. And if people are wondering where Digi is and want to hear her talk about anime, she's doing it very actively and regularly on Content. Just not all her audience is still subscribed to that, I guess. Which is fine. Who would it be? But she is still doing it, just not on this channel. And yeah, I think this was a new thing, and they said that they're experimenting and they wanted to have Mint do something and edit this video, and I thought she did a cool job with like some of the explosion effects and things and some of the cutaways, and it was a fun video in that regard, but it seemed very unfocused. And again, I don't think Riley and Mint were in the right headspace for this. Like, maybe you're not, like, so I think I'm not a drugs person, but I assume it's like alcohol, where everyone acts differently to having this sort of stimulation. And some people are entertaining if they're on drugs and filming themselves in a video, and some people might not be. You know, you might be kind of out of it, like foggy, or just not as motivated. You just didn't seem with it. And I don't think it was a very good light, and especially a lot of people's first impression of you, which is very unfortunate, because I think you have a much better first impression, both Mint and Riley, in the Void Gazers series. I do think that was a better first impression, but this is, yeah, it was an unfortunate miss, and it's because people clicked on it that hadn't clicked on the other stuff, but yet they had no idea what's going on, because they see Evangelion in the title. And, you know, obviously Digi's primarily an anime, has mostly an anime type audience. Yeah, so that was really unfortunate. I am on their side in this way, where it's like, you know, I want them to succeed. I think they seem like very talented, creative people. I just don't think being on drugs like that was the right idea. And if you weren't on drugs when you filmed that, that's fine. I had no idea, but I couldn't help but assume that when that's how you start the video, with doing that. And so that's what you preface the entire thing with. So of course we're going to get that conclusion. And, you know, of course, you know, they didn't have the best impression about Ava, but it's not really about that. I just thought in terms of the craft here, and the intent behind it, I just think that there was problems to it, unfortunately. But, you know, I hope they continue with this, but just kind of make it some necessary changes, I think, with having a better orientation, you know, with not just having Riley sit in a chair and then Mint kind of sitting on the floor next to him. That was just a really weird, it's like, what's going on, you know? And you got kind of an icky kind of feeling to it, and there was something kind of off. And starting the video with like, hey kids, we're taking drugs, and I don't know, not like hey kids or something, I don't know, but like gleefully kind of prefacing the video with that, I don't know, wasn't the best for me. Oh, sorry. You know what, the thing I wanted to, last thing I was thinking about, it's like, you know, I respect wanting to do things without Digi, and I'm not gonna say that Digi is a necessity, but it is kind of weird. It was very weird to watch a video on her second channel without her in it at all. Not even a little bit. So, and this could have actually worked really well if she was in it, and not even to drive the conversation or be the main attraction or anything like that. I think if it was mostly Riley and Mint's thing, and they had Digi to bounce off of, talking about what they thought of the first 6 episodes of Evangelion, coming from somebody who could be like, yes, or answer their questions, or be someone to bounce off of, as someone who like knows the series very, very well and really likes it. Not like you have to like Ava, right? But it's like, you know, when they when these two kind of go off about like, he doesn't do anything, or he's a pussy or whatever, it's like, yeah, all right. It's because everybody says that about, a lot of people say that about Evangelion, and it's like, okay, you don't listen. You know, I feel like Digi would have been able to steer the conversation in a more productive, entertaining fashion, without having to drive it. She doesn't have to drive it. She doesn't have to whatever. She can mostly let them be giving their thoughts, and I think that's great. But just kind of, even just a little presence, I think would have gone a long way with this. Yeah, that's what I would say about that. But you know, again, not like she needs to be in these videos or something. I'm not going to have that kind of ideological stance with it. If this is the new sort of different direction they're going with this channel. You know, one thing I also thought about with this. This reminds me a lot, you know, Digi would start things all the time, new stuff, experimental stuff, and it would often be on this channel. But, you know, other times it wouldn't be on this channel. It would be on Cantent or I Am Games or something like that. She would just start a different side thing. I remember Corrupting Your Kids was another one that he was doing with Just May at the time. I feel like if they tried this and made the video and put it on a new channel before putting on Digi Collective, and I get the Digi Collective is the new hub. I get that that's what it's for. I just think that inevitably you see the shortcomings wherever you attract his old fans, and then people are like, "What the fuck is this?" You know what I mean? That was the react, and I think people are, it makes sense. I'm not saying they're justified, but it's like, think about it logically. Yeah, I see why people would think that. Not trying to be hostile towards it, but unfortunate, and I hope they don't get too discouraged by it. I hope they continue with Ava. I hope they watch more of it, and I hope they like it more. I think that'd be great. Anyway, yeah. Okay, now for some videos that I thought were decent, pretty good. And the first one is from this channel, StarClownBuggy, and this is their second video on their channel. But first, feels like their first real significant upload. The first one is like a 12-second, looks like kind of a little shitpost thing. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But this seems like a first substantial kind of AMV type thing. It's called Connect. I'm sorry if I've lost track of who sent this to me. But thank you for sending it to me. I was like, hey, can you check that? You want to check my friend's AMV out? I'm like, okay, cool. So this is using Connect by, I don't know the artist name, but it's the Madoka Magica OP. And it's the full OP. And it kind of reminds me of like a Sakuga Mad, where they're taking a lot of really standout moments of animation from various shows. A lot of their favorites, I guess. There's a little continuity with StarClownBuggy and Penguin Drum at the same time. But there's also Fate Zero and Beastars and other things. And it felt like a Sakuga Mad where like they're just stitching a lot of... And they didn't interrupt a whole lot of them. They just kind of had them play as the Madoka Magic OP plays. And so it's very rudimentary. It's kind of like their first thing. And I'm just happy they got in. They jumped into it. I hope they had fun making it. I think, there's a little syncopation with how certain clips like start to it, but there isn't a ton of syncopation to this. Yeah, I mean, I like it if they were experimenting and like, trying it out for the first time. I'm looking forward to what they do next with something maybe more conceptual of like, oh, I have this, I'm going to focus on this one show. Cause it's like a lot of the shows were good and I think the clips were good, but it's just, I couldn't really tell of a connection with all of them besides, oh, these are just shows that they probably like or standout moments of animation that they really like. And of course that, StarClownBuggy does have the connect, there's a connect, I have seen it. So there is a, connection theme running in that as well. But, it wasn't as on the nose for me. I'm just kind of a dum-dum in that way. I miss those things. But I liked it. I unfortunately don't have too much else to say about it. But it's fun. It's got kind of a throw, like especially with those of us who make a lot of AMVs and they, we're getting really into it kind of thing. This sort of step back and kind of like a lot more of a lower stakes and kind of, more innocent. There's sort of a form of innocence to this AMV that I think is nice. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. Evanito with What is Wonder Egg Priority? And that was a surprise because he barely talked about anime last year, and that's because he says at the beginning of this video, and I appreciate the transparency, where it's like, yeah, there really wasn't too much to talk about with 2020 anime, so I didn't. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But this first episode really stood out to him so much that he wanted to talk about it, and talks about like what it's about, but also speculates on where it's going and the vibes that he's getting off of it, in a way to try to like give you a better understanding of what it's like. It was the first time I heard of a Madoka comparison. This feels a lot like how Madoka Magica felt and started, like a seemingly innocent type of thing, and kind of gets crazy later on. So that is a good sell. That's really interesting. There's not a lot of like huge it's not really trying to really inform you of like I just heard about, like, he mentions the screenwriter, and he's like, he might have a good like first hit or so, on his hands. But I had actually read a thread today, I think, and it was because Core posted it in a server that Evan is also in with me. It's a thread with talking about that screenwriter has been doing J dramas for like decades at this point. And this is their first time ever doing anime because there seemed to be a frustrating disconnect with the things that he was trying to tell, the stories he wanted to tell, but they didn't. They weren't as successful in live action, or he just was having problems with it, with doing it. So it seems that this is kind of a new exciting shift into animation where a lot more fiction, you can kind of create little creatures and a lot more fantastical, which is kind of what Wonder Egg is a lot more fantastical, which is interesting. But I really like that Evan talked about it, and I think he talked about it very tactfully, and I really liked it. It was cool. The first vid I'm going to talk about from Kyubii7, who's wanted me to talk about one of their videos for a little bit now. In this video is called Great Teacher Onizuka, a Masterpiece, period. Short video, just a general overview of Great Teacher Onizuka and specifically the manga. He references the anime here and there with like screen caps, but it seems that he's mostly a fan of the manga. And it's very simple with the use of clips and stuff. Like there really isn't any clips or like manga. It feels like a lot of his materials for this video are like Google images where like he may have like looked up Onizuka face and kind of found various crops and things like that. He doesn't go so far as to like take episodes from the anime and use those scenes of him making the faces. And he's a little repeating of some faces here and there. It's very rudimentary in that way. But, I'm still happy that he's, putting his voice out there and recommending this to people and making something creative. I think it's really cool. I would say that he has this kind of similar to the, what is it called? I don't know. It's just the floating avatar, like people have like their avatars and stuff and they kind of like are wobbling around like this and sort of deal. His variation of that is just his profile picture with, but it's like the full 1920 by, I guess, like whole screen cap of the main character from Vinland Saga. I haven't seen the Vinland Saga yet. I'm waiting for it to finish, okay? But it's that with like a blunt and some sunglasses and stuff. And he cuts to that every time he needs something to cut to, basically. Kind of as a default visual to throw to lean on. And I think it works, but it will be interesting if like, he keeps, I think, he only just started a couple of months ago, but you never know, like down the line, you'll change your profile picture and, it was like, wait, why is he cutting to this kid? But like the other people deal with that all the time too, putting their branding and icons in their videos. I certainly have them in mine, so I'm not one to totally judge. But I just thought that was an interesting variation on that idea of cutting back to things. There's a little of a cute musical interlude. That's the word, interlude. Using Can. I think it's the Can theme. And it's just like a montage of his various faces he makes. And there's some syncopation. There was the beginnings of like some really kind of like, all right, cool, like da 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 da, and it was showing the faces. I'm like, all right, yeah. I feel like Can is like one of the most AMV-able kind of songs where the beats are so specific and like catchy and earwormy that like the brain really wants a flashing, at least my brain, people who make, as someone who makes AMVs, I would want like everything like boop 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 boop, or just show one clip of like them doing emotion and landing it at the end of that boop 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 boop, and you know what I mean? There's a tiny bit of it. He does the da, 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 and then it's mostly like just a straight montage of like placing clip for 2 seconds or something like that. But it's the start of something. It's the beginnings. I feel the rumblings. I'm like, oh boy, cool. He's starting to feel it. I hope that it's like, my takeaway with all of these is like, especially with newer creators, it's like, I just hope you had fun making the video, because I think it's just really cool and fun to see your ideas put on a, put to screen with visuals, with a kind of a cohesive script, and also the kind of the syncopation with that. I hope that like making that was fun, right? You can make it even more fun, and challenge yourself too. I think that'd be great. For one, I usually don't talk about audio too much because I always feel like I don't I don't know it as well. Like I feel like it's harder for me to judge personally. But I would say that like, and I think you had a comment below mentioning it, where you do talk kind of quick, and it seems that, I don't know how often your takes are, or if this is scripted or unscripted. I think some of the parts are scripted for sure, but you have such a natural cadence or rhythm to you. It does feel like you're kind of talking unscripted, rambling, to a friend or something, which is a really great asset for YouTubers in general, right? You don't want to just kind of monotone, you weren't boring to listen to. There was just a lot of moments where I couldn't quite catch what you said. You would just kind of rush through something, and I'm like, wait, what did he say there? We want to hear what you're saying, and the more often that happens, where I don't know what he said there, the more you just kind of disengage with it, because you're like, well, I don't know what he's saying. Oh well, and you're not paying attention as much. So that would be why I'm telling you, it's like, maybe slow down, or take a second pass over at some of these cuts and be like, yeah, I kind of rushed through that little part. Let me record just that little bit, re-record some parts, just to make it more clearer what you're saying. But again, I think the cadence you have here is kind of an asset, where it seems very laid back, and you're not trying to prove anything, or I think a lot of people, obviously, like, the essays by the videos are trying to be persuasive in some way, and I feel like that's not like what you're really trying to gun for, like kind of very manipulatively. I think you just want to express yourself and be honest, and kind of and be more informal like that, and I think that's great. I'd encourage that more in the future, but that would be why I would say, like, make sure we can hear you, and like listen, understand what you're saying. You know what I mean? But yeah, I hope you enjoyed making that video, and I enjoyed watching it. It was cool. I am finally talking about a video from this guy, Immortallium, who was making videos 7 years ago for like kind of like product reviews and sort of various anime things. And then he stopped 3 years ago. And then he suddenly came back 8 months ago. And I don't remember exactly where I found him, because like I remember it, like I had caught him in this second wave. So he's been making videos for a lot of 2020, and I just I haven't felt as compelled to talk about any of his videos yet, or maybe I have and I just forgot, and I'm sorry. It's like, no, you talked about this guy before. Apologize. But it's just him at a desk, and it seems very classic, and it's also kind of fairly far away from the camera, so you can like see the whole desk. I'm like, wow, okay. That's different and interesting. But he has a very formal way of speaking, and the video itself is just a review on Memories, which is an anime that my company is putting out soon, and I've had I've worked on it a good deal, and I don't know, like, knock on wood sort of deal, because like I want to wait for it to be fully released before I say this, I guess, but I've worked so much on it and I'm working on a feature, a special feature for it, that I'm being credited as an associate producer on Memories, which is crazy. But anyway, yeah, but this review was good, and I'd seen Memories, and review, it is what it is, really. He's going through each of the three points. I like that he started, I like that he focused on the substance of all three of it individually, and then talked about them stylistically, kind of overhead and stuff, and some general production history. I thought that was a good structure to it. It goes by pretty quick. and again, I like the how formal it feels, and it doesn't feel like it's trying to get. It doesn't have a lot of punches and jabs and things like that. It's very clean in that way. We're trying to like riffs on things or anything like that. I don't think there's anything wrong with riffing, of course. More more or less entertaining. But I think these are very utilitarian and purposeful and good. So I wanted to mainly to I was like, okay, finally video. I feel like really compelled to talk about, I guess, in whatever fashion I can, I guess. But no, I'm happy to see him making content again, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Also, he doesn't just do reviews; he does other things, various discussion type videos, and I was like, yeah, this is kind of cool. Yeah, pretty sweet. There's a Professor Otaku video that I actually kind of liked, and the thumbnail is very surprising too, because this is not like what he would usually put on a thumbnail. But that's good for me because I don't really like a lot of his thumbnails. He puts like googly eyes on the character, and I just find it really gross. But this video is what does Prof love? Anime dissection, and he starts out very self-deprecating of like, I don't really have like a top 10, or I pay so much attention to the things I don't like that I never think about the ones that I like. I'm like, oh geez, okay. But when he actually started talking about the things that he liked, of course I fuck with that. Even if it's just like listing off general, like, where he says, oh, I like that show, and I'm like, yeah, cool. Why do you like that show? And he talks about it, and you get a better idea of what he values in media. I think it also kind of humanizes him in a way. Like, I like seeing people be happy and enjoy things, because then it's like, especially when you can then contrast that with the things that they don't like, that contrast I think is really important, because if you're just negative, you're just come off as kind of a dick and kind of a sourpuss, and it's like, oh, do you even like anything? That's always my feeling on these things, of course. I would want to see a little bit of passion and kind of like I am in favor of this stuff overall, but this is a miss from, and talking about it generously, I suppose. But this is a overall video of him talking about the stuff that he likes, and I was surprised to hear that he really liked Gundam Wing. And it's more of a nostalgia pick, I think. It's like one of the first that really sunk him into this whole thing. I think he mentions how, like, I probably wouldn't be making videos if it weren't for Gundam Wing type of thing. And I have anime like that too. That's awesome, and I'm happy that he still has that respect for it, and kind of sticks by it in spite of its more recent reputation these days. It's got some fans that are nostalgic for it, but it's not one of the more well-liked ones these days. It seems, at least to me, by the wider community. But I was happy to hear that he does like that one, and various other things like kind of stuff I wouldn't expect, like Gun Sword. What was the other one? It was like, it's not Battle Athletes, but Angelic Layer. I believe that's what it was. Yeah. And then also like Rayearth and Escaflowne. I love Escaflowne, so that was cool to see. And I'm happy to hear he likes Rayearth as well. I am looking forward to that one. I've only seen Chobits and Sakura, and I guess not really. Gios doesn't really count because it's just their designs. I'm talking in terms of clamp work, in regards to, experiencing clamp. So, looking forward to more of that, but especially looking forward to Rayearth, because I do like me a fantasy mech. I just started Now and Then Here and There, which is pretty fantasy mech, so that's pretty sweet. I don't know why I mentioned that. Yeah, I really liked that. I liked that. It was good. I was pretty negative on Gigguk's Best of Anime 2019 video, and I should have rewatched my review on it or recollected my thoughts on this before watching this video. But I came away kind of liking it, mostly for the ending, talking about his feelings on anime culture, where it is possible to be a weeb and not watch anime, because like that was the defining trait for for most of the time. But 2020 was the first time where like so many facets of Japanese culture is so prevalent in a lot of in our culture, at least for weebs, right? That like not a lot of them, you don't watch as much anime as you did VTubers or played some gacha games or what have you. And you can interact with weeb culture without watching as much anime or almost any anime. And I thought that was a really interesting and cool point that he made there. And he does acknowledge in this one that this isn't supposed to have the energy of the previous and his best of sort of things, like his previous yearly recap videos. Doesn't have the same kind of energy. Because he's very transparent. It's like, and I wasn't feeling it this time. And I'm like, it's pretty fair, given 2020. So, he leaned on more of a list type thing. He listed 9 things with some honorable mentions at the beginning. And I thought he was pretty sharp and had good points here. I like that he was very vocal about some of the things that he didn't like as much as some people. And it seemed pretty logical with his ranking and kind of order of choices and things like that. I was like, well, I liked this, a good deal, but this was the reason why this one came away higher for me personally. Things like that was really nice. It didn't feel, and because he turned it more towards himself and kind of was like, this is just what I liked. It felt a lot better than trying to come off as like, the year's 2019, kind of putting on a show type of thing. Because I do think it wasn't working as much in last year's video. I didn't really enjoy that one. But I thought this one was much better, actually. And yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's not too much to say else about it. It's a list video of sorts. But that's okay. It still has a really snappy energy to it. Gigguk is still pretty sharp and funny. But yeah, no, I was happy to see that. Stepping on a better note, I think, than last year. I watched RagsAnime talk about what the fuck are all these Mario anime, a complete history of Mario anime. It was a little redundant title. I've actually covered a Mata anime series, the Super Mario Brothers thing, the first thing he talks about here. In Core's Summer 1989 video, which is, it's not great. There isn't much to say about that one, and I think Rags has kind of an awkward time riffing on it, and it feels like he's sort of scraping for anything in that first one. But I think he had a much better rhythm and flow with his jokes and his observations and his editing tricks and things. Once he got to that one with the Dora the Explorer type plot, like it's for kids and stuff, and so like Mario calls on a phone every so often and asks the viewer a quiz, and they have to guess one, and like Rags is like, well, obviously it's this one, and it's like, no, it's this one. He's like, what the fuck? I thought it was funny. I thought he had a better energy later on with that one, as well as the big feature length Mario thing, which is the whole thing, whatever. But it's very much of a kind of like bringing you through that journey and through that experience of watching it, rather than like telling you about it in the same way. It's like, and then he does this thing, I think it's a little long, to be honest with you. I think if you kind of like looked at it and was like, okay, what are the best jokes out of this, and kind of getting the flow to it, I think parsing this down could have really helped the video. But other than that, yeah, I thought I enjoyed this a good deal, and so I had to suffer through all those very subpar Mario anime. Okay, and now what I thought were the best videos of the week, and I'm going to start with a bit of a surprise, kind of a no way. I think this is the first time I'm talking about Chibi Reviews on Digest, and he's in the best category. Which is a surprise. It's not like I don't hate Chibi. I've always been sub to him, and I'm always curious when there's a seasonal that I really, really, really like. I always want to hear his take on it because he really has a good pulse on the community as a whole. I feel like stuff that he really likes, a lot of general anime fans are going to like. So I think he's a good barometer. Yeah, I was going to say barometer test, but I guess barometer's good enough. I think it's a good indication of like, okay, they like this one. They as the community, I suppose. Not like he's supposed to be this monolith or anything, but I think he's a good indication. And, he's not he usually isn't very contrarian. When he isn't liking something, he doesn't talk about it anymore. He just kind of stops talking. I watched that first episode. It was interesting. And he might go through the whole thing, or he might just stop any time. And I respect that about him. He really is prioritizing the things that he likes, and he's not just trying to really go out of his way to read and watch everything, especially recently. I feel like even more now. I remember when he was first kind of really exploding and getting big, he would be reviewing as much as possible. And, he's as being subbed for him for a long time, but not like watching pretty much most of his videos. I just wanted to sub to kind of keep an eye on him like I do with a lot of these guys, kind of see what they're up to. I remembered him talking about My Hero Academia before the anime had come out back in 2015, before 2015, or 2016 was the first season. So 2015 was like when I was subbed to him, and I was remembering first seeing pictures of Midoriya and Bakugo and Todoroki and stuff like on his thumbnails and stuff. Anyway, getting all that aside, I respect the guy, but it's like, it's reviews. It's just episode reviews, and I can't say too much else about them. But this is one where really, I like that he's been doing a lot more kind of discussion stuff, and I haven't found one that I really want to like point this out and be like, I was happy he did that or talked about that thing. He's also had a lot of misses. I know people will probably bring up to me about him talking about Evangelion, forgetting that Gundam exists. Kind of talking about it in the vein that like a lot of things that he's talking about that Eva did first, it's like, it's a Gundam thing, right? Type of thing. So he's not perfect, of course. But I really respected that he went out of his way to call out this toxic behavior that was happening this week about MAPPA staff being attacked for Attack on Titan Season 4. And him saying these people don't deserve anime, it's a pretty bold, jarring title, but I think it's strong enough. I think it's important to say stuff like something that hyperbolic, so that people understand that this is not okay. This is incredibly awful, toxic behavior that we don't want to accept in any circumstance. You can complain about the anime all you want, but don't go adding the animators, especially ones that weren't even involved with it. Like, what are you doing? It's so incredibly rude, especially the way these guys went about it. A lot of people went about it, but there's two tweets in particular that got very viral and stuff that Chibi's responding to here. He's not a drama channel or anything, but I'm very happy that he is calling out this very toxic behavior. And also Anime Man kind of had the same thought. These people, if you say this, if you really go out of your way to say this directly to these people who are working their ass off on very unfair and unflattering conditions in the industry, they don't deserve anime. These people, these fans, I don't know. I think I've waffed enough about it. Unfortunately, I think I just wanted to talk about Chibi specifically, I guess, and just that I'm happy he's doing this with the platform he has. Not like he's 1 million subscribers or something, but he's a pretty well-known figure, all things considered, and he's one of the only people I saw actually going so far as to make a video like this, to really call these people out. It's stuff like that. I'm happy that anime YouTube is able to do that and have their influence for good and not just to spread bullshit or misinformation like everyone assumes that they do. They do, of course. I'm not going to deny that they don't, right? But the megaphone can be used for both good and evil. It's a passive thing. And people always like to talk about how shitty these people like Chibi are, but like, not really. No, they're really not bad people. Um, but you know, I'm very happy he did this, and that's kind of why it's in the best for me. It's just like the symbol of it is really great for me, even though it's like a rant, and it's not like he's trying to like, he's not making this big thing out of it and trying to like cite interviews with other people and get all the facts right or anything like that. There's a lot of hearsay in this video, of course, but I think the sentiment is strong enough for me to really push forward. As like, yeah, I'm really happy you did that. It's another video that I got sent my way to be like, hey, check this out. Some of this guy Tsumami, and he's also relatively new, but he's been doing this a little longer. And he talked about Great Pretender's Wasted Potential. Nice baity kind of title. I have not seen Great Pretender, but this video is pretty much exclusively spoiling the last arc of the series. But like, it doesn't seem like the kind of series that is really plot. Like, there's twists, but I don't know. It's like spoiling Lupin. It's like, yeah, I guess that happens, but I don't know. Great Pretender has that vibe of like, there could be more of this potentially. It's not like this big like definitive character arc or anything like that. There are arcs for sure, of course. I thought that was interesting here. This is the first really negative video about it. I mean, Bennett obviously talked about it kind of negatively, but that was very dismissive of him and not a very helpful kind of video, and not like really addressing the material. He's just like, it's well made, I just don't like it because they're all liars. Yeah. That was kind of his point. I was like, okay. I mean, I don't like that either too much, but I don't know if that was worth making. I did talk about that on Digest before. Didn't really like that video too much. But this was very constructive, specific criticism, and really talking about and liking the show a good deal, and being on board with it, and then kind of voicing that disappointment that actually Gigguk voiced in his Anime of 2020 video that I talked about earlier. The reason he didn't rank Great Pretender higher than number 3 on his list was because of this ending, which he does do a little spoilery point. He's like, oh, skip to this point in the video. I just have to vent. I just have to release my... It's like, why would you do that? And this video in particular is going more into detail, talking about the frustrations that this last arc had with not killing its not going as hard, not killing off many of its characters, or any of its characters. Yeah, I don't. So I mean, yeah, that is kind of a yikes for me personally. I don't like that either. But you know, less about the points that he's making and more about the craft here. I think it was good. I like there wasn't it's not as much bullshit or trying to make it entertaining or as much. It's cool, but it's not like trying to be jokey or anything like that. I think he handled this with a good deal of tact, a nice balance, and not trying to feel like he's coming off as too complainy or too bitchy. It felt like he is coming from this as a fan. There's one trick that I keep thinking about visually. There isn't much to this visually, but there's one thing that he did with putting some other additional footage, shrinking it, and having like a little fade around it, and kind of having it float around the character's head at some points, or kind of bringing information like that. I thought that was a really creative, interesting editing choice. But other than that, there isn't too much fancy schmancy stuff going on here that I could tell. But that's cool. You don't have to. Yeah. But I'm happy you talked about it, and I thought that was really interesting. And I was pretty on board for everything he said. I even though I hadn't seen this show, I was able to really follow everything he said. I don't know how much of that plot recap was completely necessary. I'm happy he didn't really even bother with talking so much about the first 3 arcs. He really did just focus on that 4th one. There was a little bit of like explaining what happens in the show, and I'm not the biggest fan of that because it's a little like I could just be watching it, or but I think the way that this was handled was pretty good, and he does mostly focus on like the problems he has, and not so much like then this happens. It didn't feel like that as much. Yeah, but I really enjoyed that actually. I thought that was really good tact. For a negative video on a fairly popular, well-liked show. Hey, it's the Under the Scope Anime Awards, Best of 2020. And this I rewatched my 2019 review of my review of his 2019 Anime Awards video, and I give it I give it the best of the week, but I'm really harsh on it. Very picky and critical. So I don't come off as much of that this time. I did enjoy it. It's kind of little same old in that regard. I think my observations in that previous year are still prevalent here, but it didn't bother me as much once I came into it knowing that and kind of having a feel for that, I guess. Maybe it was less transparent, but I definitely had that criticism in mind of like what I talked about last year. The big thing was this is less of an award show and more of a structure or a platform for you to make your piece about everything you saw in 2020. Not a lot of it like that deserves a video of its own right, but it's your vehicle to be able to say that, I like this character, I like this OP, I like this thing that happened, and so on and so forth, and give your piece on everything that you saw. And again, I always caveated it in that last video with not that there's anything wrong with it, but I clearly was bothered by it if I kept mentioning it. Sorry about that. But I think now that like I kind of felt I kind of like went into this expecting that, I was like, okay, cool. So I just wrote down all the noms and how many nominations there were, just to be like, oh yeah, there wasn't a thing there. Films were still separate. You definitely had that. You say that in this video. That's still a very hard rule. But again, I don't see what a film production does differently, even if it's on a different time scale. I don't know how different that is if you're going to judge character designs or best side character or any of the character categories. I definitely understand from a production standpoint that there's differences. So you can probably have two separate, two categories for that. And again, there's only 4 noms, so it's like, whatever. And you didn't want to nominate a Whisker Away because you didn't like that movie. So, I understand. Although, Ongaku was available here in the States, like a few times, on online film festivals, not in a theater. It was available. I'm sorry. I was just a little bummed that movie once again gets completely ignored by the majority of the community. I don't know why. It's like it's still the best anime I watched in 2020 and one of my favorites period now. I pre-ordered it. G-Kids is releasing it physically. It is getting a physical release in the United States. But it is available online. I don't know I don't know how against torrenting you are. I mean, considering you watched Beastars and you didn't have a problem with that, but Anyway, just a tad butthurt about that, but no big deal. I hope you just watch. If anything, just hope you watch Ongaku. It's a fantastic film. It's great. Also, it came out in 2019 technically, but blah blah blah. Whatever. Understand. Anyway, but yeah, I don't have too much else to say about it. Nice still kills it. I really like the transitions in this one. I like that you incorporated Under the Scope's logo, like the very polygonal type of thing. I thought was a really nice choice. It looks fantastic. And I like the variety you had in the different kinds of transitions. It wasn't like super try hard where you're doing every single one's a different transition. There's like 3 or 4, but they're all really nice. So I thought that was really stylistic, and honestly, keep it. I know you don't want you want to challenge yourself, plug and play, but I say that's a winner. I say you keep that particular the particular style and aesthetic changes here, and all that was really nice. But yeah, overall, of course, I loved watching it. I'm happy you put so much effort into it. And looking forward to the next one and whatever you make in 2021. Heck yeah. GilLiesHere is back, baby, with I Got Tomorrow, which is a now and then here and there AMV, post AMV, which was so funny, completely separate, or maybe maybe we mentioned her. I don't know. I don't know what. I assume you've been working on this longer than that, but we actually decided on Now and Then Here and There to be the next group watch on my patron Discord. So we started watching that show on Sunday. Yesterday. First 3 episodes. So like seeing that was really cool to reincorporate it with here. And there's so much cool shit happening here. It's another Gil. I hate to be able. It's like it's another Gil video, you know. I couldn't pinpoint anything about this that was like I've never seen that from Gil, type of thing. I mean the typography's freaking cool, with like the I got, you know, all that sort of thing. I thought that you know what was a little new. I don't know if he's done this before, but towards the end, he had included a scene I think from the end of the show. So I'd been spoiled. I don't know if you gave a spoiler warning actually. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the end of the show. Seemed like it. So, you know, spoilers for Now and Then Here and There, I guess. That's funny. But like I really like that you incorporated the text, like the subs, as your big typography, like big white and kind of above here, and it's very stylistically bold. And I thought that was a really cool choice at the end there. I don't know if that happens a little earlier or something, but I remember specifically for the end. I thought that was really cool. And you know what was, you know, something I was thinking about it with this one. The composition of some of these shots when it comes to layering stuff together. You know, it's not just the aesthetic of laying things one on top of the other, but it's like the one shot in particular of like Shu kind of being blasted up like this, or if this is the shot, whatever, kind of like that or whatever. It's like when he gets blasted up before he gets isekai'd, you know, having that on the top where like you have like live action footage at the bottom, so he's covering that negative space where the sky is. That's really cool. And other such compositions like that where you're fitting them in such a way, or the on the thumbnail here, you know, overlaying some stuff with that thing. And I don't even know if there's even that much masking going on. There's probably a little masking, but it seemed like mostly just an overlay. But it looked like the character was looking outside that window, and it was all live action footage and stuff, like kind of on that journey type of thing. I think that's really sick. I think that's awesome. And, you know, I love me some death grips, of course. So, you know, of course I love the piss out of this. It's sick. Good seeing it. Love it. But, you know, I'm just... I'm most excited about the prospect of what this represents, more so than the video itself. The video itself is obviously fantastic. But HazelNeverTalks had another burst of AMVs this week. Put out like 4 in a day, and then another one today. Cool. And it's especially an important week for her because she finally switched over to Adobe Premiere, which is really powerful. I'm scared because like, and also this one that I chose, she's using this tool that I haven't even heard of, a Vidimux, and like she's using it to like get this glitch effect of like, you know, like you have like a shot and then it kind of freezes and then the motion of another shot kind of wipes away the glitches and stuff, and it's cool. It's so cool. But this one here, Flatten the Shoulders, is really the first big, like the first real significant, like, oh shit, she learned how to use Premiere. And she's still learning stuff. Like I was just giving her tips today about masking, and she's like, learned how to mask. I'm like, no. So it's gonna be really strong, really powerful with, you know, with how much experience she's had with AMVs already and how much she's willing to push the envelope and do a lot of stuff and how fast and efficient she is. Oh my god. But it feels like the other AMVs besides this one were a lot more rudimentary for her and a lot more stripped back. It's just kind of simple clip selection. But I think that's just to get a handle on Premiere and just get a practice and experience with it. And then this was the first one. And it's like, okay, let's have fun. And it's so sick. Obviously the big show-stopping moment in this one, the flatten the shoulders, was kind of the chorus type of thing. It's like a little ways into the video with the lyrics, but with her kind of like layering stuff on top and like little bits in the side here. And it's more of a texture type of AMV and not so much talking about the footage. Like I could barely comprehend what Zaragoto is about. I mean, she tweets about it all the time, but I don't know shit. And you still don't really get what it is from this, but you just get an aesthetic, raw experience out of it, which is really cool and exciting. I agree with Cynic Clinic to have a seizure warning at some point. But what can you do? I think especially what's tough, right, is as someone is for me as well, I can tell where some things it's like, yeah, that probably will induce seizures. That's probably a little much. But there's other effects where it's difficult for me as someone who doesn't have epilepsy to be like, okay, would this trigger you? And not like out of a rude or malicious way. I just generally don't know. I want to be able to accommodate people like that, especially because it's like, if they want to watch the AMVs, that's hell of a lot better than people who don't give a shit. So I want to accommodate those people who have epilepsy. But the reason I ask and sort of like what's difficult for me about that is like I want to know which effects if I choose to do them, I should put epilepsy warning, but then it's like, would this do it? If so, I can avoid doing that and maybe do something less seizure inducing because I want more people to watch it. I don't want people to like skip around, have to feel the need to shut their eyes or skip around or anything. So like, I already had a couple people like that. So it's like, well, let me know like what's rough. I guess it's like immediately flashing like blips suck. And like kind of like going one frame at a time is probably bad. But again, even in that case, it's like, how much what happens if like, I imagine if it's high contrast, like black and white, that's definitely a no-go. But if it's like little bit, I don't know, if it's not as contrasty, but it's still blinking at one frame, like, is that bad? I would like to know, just have a better understanding of that. I'm sorry that's not so much about Hazel's video, right? But I just think that's interesting or something to talk about, I suppose. Anyway, yeah, of course I love that video. But it's more of a prospect of like what it represents is like, oh shit, she learned Premiere. Oh no, oh fuck, type of thing. It's really exciting and really freaking epic. It's epic, yo. But that'll do it for this installment of AniTube Digest. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to my patrons, including Austin, Beamburst, Boo, Hazel, Kuiper, MyAnimePod, Najbeb, Saxon, Unique Namosaurus, Victor, and Yellow Cheese. You guys are great. You have a great week. Yo, peace.